And for our final lesson, let's take a look at solving percent problems that have equations. There are equations. A formula I want you to be familiar with is percent times base equals amount. For every percent problem, there are 3 different pieces we need to be aware of. The first one is the percent. This one has to be converted to a decimal, and then it'll have to be converted back. Sometimes it might have to be converted back to a percent at the end of the problem, depending on what the unknown is. So we're going to use percent, but we're always going to do the math with it as a decimal. The base, we're going to look for our base to be close to the word of, and you'll see what we mean when we start the examples. And amount is always going to be next to the equal sign. So that's how you're going to recognize the 3 pieces of a percent problem. Let's look at example 1. It says 36% of 72 is what number? Let's identify the 3 parts. 36%, well, that's our percent. It's really easy to identify because it has a percent sign. And then I said the base follows the word of. Well, following of is 72. That's my base. And next to the equal sign is, of course, is our equal sign. Is what number? There's my unknown. You could put an X if you wanted to. I'm just going to use an A. What's my formula is always going to be percent times base is equal to amount. Let's plug in our numbers. 36% as a decimal. Well, I've got to move my decimal point 2 places to the left. It's 0.36 times 72, that's the base, that's equals A, which is the unknown. Now all I have to do is the multiplication. Not even too bad multiplication. 72 times 0.36. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 1, 43. Put down a 0, multiply times my 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 7 is 21. Let's add those 2 together. We have 2. 3 and 6 is 9. 4 and 1 is 5. And 2. And 2 decimal places have to be in my answer. So, A, the amount, is really equal to 25.92. So 36% of 72 is 29.92. Now let's look at another example. This time we're going to see what happens when we have an unknown base instead of an unknown amount. Let's see if we can identify the 3 pieces. Is our equal sign, remember, and it separates the percent from the amount. So what's unknown? Next to the word of is the base. So I say A equals P times B. Now I can write my formula down that way. I could also write P times B equals A. It doesn't matter. But I'll write A is equal to P times B because that's the order it's in my problem, my word problem. The amount, 0.7, is 20% as a decimal is going to be 0.2 times the base. We don't know the base. So 0.2B. Now you could also write this, 0.7 is equal to 0.2b, just like b was an x. Pretend b is an x if it confuses you. It's got a coefficient. The coefficient is 0.2. Now one thing we said, remember we said when you have an equation with decimals, you can multiply by either 10 or 100 or 1,000 to clear the decimals. Remember that if we want to, we can multiply each of these terms by a 10 to move the decimal 1 place. Now I would have 7 is equal to 2b. And that might be a little easier for you to do the math with. How do you finish it? Divide by the coefficient of b. And my answer, b is going to equal 7 divided by 2. Well, let's say 7 divided by 2, probably going to end up with a decimal here. Let's put a decimal in my answer. 2 into 7 goes 3. That's 6. Bring down a 1 or subtract, bring down a 0, and that would be 5. 5 times 2 is 10. So my answer is B is equal to 3.5. So 0.7 is 20% of 3.5 would be my base number. All right, let's do number 3. This time the unknown is the percent. Percent times the base is the amount. Okay, let's write that formula down. Percent times base equals amount. Let's identify the percent. Well, we don't know it. We'll just use the letter P. We're going to say times 40 equals 60. Now, normally we would write the variable after the coefficient, so we'll write that again, 40p is equal to 60. And you can see easily now, what do? I divide by 40. These cancel, and p is equal to 60 divided by 40. What is 60 divided by 40? Well, that would go one time. Looks like I'm going to have to put a decimal point, so let's go ahead and do that in my answer too. And when I subtract, I have 20, and I'll bring down another 0. 40 is going to go into 20. I think 5 is going to work. 5 times 0, 5 times 4, and it did. My answer, 1.5. But remember, the unknown is a percent. I'm going to have to take it to get it from a decimal to a percent. I have to move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add a percent sign. So the percent is going to equal 150%. What percent of 150% of 40 is 60.